Now, the first viewer's question is on the topic of precious metals. Now, they're wondering about, in the future, whether you see a divergence of paper and physical prices if there's a lot of demand in the physical market. I guess, what do you see happening in the future? Do you see there being a divergence in the prices of paper and physical precious metals?
There are so many more people, Elijah, who are so much more up to speed on this. And one of them is our own Tom Cloud here at Follow the Money. When I look at it, I'll give you my take. I'm a gold investor. I'm an economist. I'm a trader. So take my answer with a grain of salt, realizing I'm not a precious metals, so to speak, expert. I invest. I believe in precious metals. I believe that they need to be purchased by virtually everyone. They need to have a small stake in precious metals if they don't have any, but at the very least. But as far as where things are going to go, my crystal ball is broken. When I look at the price of gold and then I look at the price of ETFs and I see the backing that they have, I see lots of challenges. I certainly see lots of challenges there. I think that over time, you're going to see silver really soar for obvious reasons. You're going to see it soar and possibly decouple from the paper price, mainly due to the sheer lack of it. I know many people like to debate that, but if you look at the USGS report, you'll see that silver within the Earth's crust will no longer be available, 4, 5, 6 years down the road. This is from the U.S. Geological Survey. So we already know that silver is going to need to be recycled at some point. Otherwise, we're going to have sky-high prices. But then, on top of that, you have solar, right? Solar is this juggernaut that has been suppressed for so long, solar energy. And silver is being used to, of course, with these solar panels. And that is something that's big because we believe, aside from gold and silver, we believe that solar energy is going to be one of the major developments that we're going to see in this century. We really believe we're going, because, Elijah, it's crazy. If you take the energy from the sun for one day, just one day, if you could capture if the planet Earth itself could capture and store all of the energy from the sun for one day, just for one day, and this is a statistic from the Solar Energy Institute or whatever the name of it is, I was reading the other day, a good report. Unbelievable. And they had all the data there to prove it, that the energy that comes off of the sun in one day, if you could capture it, you could power the entire world for an entire year. And I'm not talking about just your refrigerator and your electricity. I'm talking about your vehicles. I'm talking about your, everything else. So everything can be powered for a long time. We've been so silly not to go after solar more heavily. Other nations are, and this is why silver is certainly going to go up. Maybe the U.S. is owned by the oil industry. Maybe other places are owned by the, by the petroleum industry. But these emerging nations, when they look at a cost analysis, benefit cost analysis of using solar to build out or building out a petroleum infrastructure, they're always choosing solar. Because, yes, the upfront costs are a little bit more expensive, but the return is so much better. So many new countries and many emerging countries are coming aboard the solar train, and that's just going to put tremendous pressure upon silver prices. So solar in one way for silver, and I think there's other things as well, but just for the sake of time, let me go back to gold for a minute and say this, that yes, gold, if anybody doubted gold as a hedge against uncertainty, maybe they thought that it had lost that role. You go back to Q1 of 2016 and you see what gold did whenever there was fear in the overall market. And then you look at what's happened in Q2 of 2016. So the fact, this idea that gold and silver somehow are relics or barbarous relics, and nobody looks at them anymore as being any kind of currency, and no one thinks that they should be used to back up anything. I may agree that we may never get to that place without a major collapse before we finally humble ourselves and stop printing money out of thin air and think that somehow we've got something good. It may take a huge crash for us to get there, but I think one day, Elijah, we will come to our senses, whether it's through a massive crash or just a increase in knowledge, and I think it's probably going to be the massive crash, where we'll go back to something. May not last forever, but we'll go back to something. It's just the cycle of humanity. And right now, Elijah, your listeners need to know that they're living in one of the most bizarre times. In 1971, everything went paper. Everything went paper, thanks to the United States. So we are fiat currency worldwide. And, so far, I still have a house to walk into, right? I still have a car that runs. I still have a stock market I can invest in. I still have real estate I can buy. I still drive down the road and I see everything seems to be working fine in this paper economy, right on the outside. But those who are paying attention to the inside see the corruption that's happening. They see how this thing is declining. And the average person doesn't see the writing on the wall, sadly. And so, one of the things I would say and suggest to people out there listening is be prepared. Do whatever it takes to prepare yourself. We have created our 5 levels of financial freedom. They're completely free. You can read and encourage yourself and learn things that you can do. We teach financial wisdom. We don't teach silliness. We don't tell you to buy gold and put all your money in gold and silver. No. We teach balance, divine moderation, right? Living in great moderation. And so we teach that, and people can go there and they can learn all about that. Just go to followthemoney.com and click the Get Started button, and you'll be all set to go.
And this viewer is wanting to know, still about on the topic of precious metals. Now, you talk about how the money right now is just all paper and blips on a computer screen. It's not actually backed by physical precious metals, and one day this might all collapse. Now, in the case of that, and if you couldn't use your paper money to purchase anything, this viewer is wanting to know if you think bartering with your precious metals, if you think that would ever be something that you could do, is barter with your precious metals, and if so, what kind of silver, let's say, would be best for bartering?
Okay, well, again, just the premise of the question, begs some questions itself. If your precious metals or if your paper currency won't buy anything, will you be able to barter with silver? Well, yeah. But again, remember, you can probably barter with a lot of things, right? Cigarettes. You could barter with alcohol, right? In fact, part of our own prepping that we've done. I'm not one of these crazy survivalist preppers, but I do have a go bag. I do have food and water storage, right? I'm prepared for whatever I can be. I know that grocery stores don't make food. And so one of the things we do is we actually, look for things that people would really, really want. You know what's going to be more valuable than silver when the whole thing crashes? Medicine. Yeah? What's going to be more valuable than what's more valuable than medicine in a crash like that, right? If you can't get medicine, or liquor, right? Or cigarettes, right? People will pay crazy money for that stuff. Now, can you barter with silver during that time? Of course you can. Now, what would you use? You would use something that's identifiable, right? You would want to use something that's identifiable and divisible. So you wouldn't want a big 100-ounce bar of silver. You want something that's maybe like a little ounce bar or an ounce coin, preferably, not even bars. Coins are more understandable and acceptable by the person who doesn't really understand what silver is. And if it says USA on it, some people may think that's bad, but in a time of crisis, most people will be looking for some sort of backing on that coin. So here's what I'm saying. I'm saying that if we break down to a place where your paper money cannot be used, then we're in a really, really bad situation. That's a Mad Max situation, I would call that, Elijah. I don't believe we go there. I believe that in the time of hyperinflation or whatever we end up going into, however this thing begins to dissolve, history tells us what's going to happen. And they're going to come out with a different color currency, right? They're going to come out with a different color paper. They're going to come out with something else. They're going to come out with a new promise. They're going to come out with a new agency, a new institution, a new way of doing things. So they can stave it off as long as they possibly can until the faith is gone. And I would say, Elijah, and I hate to be so crass, but based upon the average individual out there and based upon our political system, I would say it wouldn't take much to fool people to get their faith back if we do have a crash. I think we'll probably be going through I think people who understand what's going on are going to benefit. I think they need to be prepared and wise. But I do not believe the situation where everybody wakes up and says paper is worthless and I'm not going to use it anymore. I have to use gold and I got to barter with people. I don't think we end up there. I don't think that you and I end up there. I think maybe our kids or our grandkids may end up there, but I don't see us there, and I don't really see anybody there. I see more of a return to sanity, and I think that I think we need to be prepared nonetheless for the worst case scenario, but I just don't really envision that unfolding, Elijah.
All right, and now moving to this next viewer's question. This viewer is wanting to know, do you see in the future the possibility of the government confiscating gold and silver mines once precious metals become essential and strategic for various reasons?
Well, it all depends what makes them strategic. And second of all, remember the gold and silver. One of the things we've been saying since we've been doing this is, and this has been a long time now, is we've always urged people not to worry. And, this may come back one day. It may be true. I don't know for sure. But I would say I really doubt you're going to see a confiscation of gold and silver. And when people say, well, Jerry, you don't understand. They did that in 1933. Well, most people don't know the story. They just heard about it on the website somewhere. And they're like, well, they're going to confiscate my gold because they did one time. Well, you find me one person from 1933 who went to jail because they didn't turn in their gold and silver, right? Nobody went to jail. Nobody paid a fine, right? There's no record of any fine being paid or anybody being thrown in jail. Why is that the case? Because the government makes threats, but they're not going to come out to your house with a gun to take your gold, right? So, keep your gold on your person, or not on your person, but within your reach, right? Have it within your hand so you can have it. But secondly, if the government really wants to come and confiscate something, they don't have to come and shut down the gold mines. If they took all the gold out of Americans' pockets right now, if they actually had a way to come out with guns and tanks and take all of your gold and silver, or your gold, I'm sorry, they would run the government for maybe a few weeks, right? Because there's just not enough gold to run the kind of crazy stuff that these guys are doing. These guys have gone off the rails, right? So I'm not worried about them confiscating gold. What I'm worried about them doing is them coming in and slapping a new 15% distribution tax on your 401k or your IRA for all new retirees, right? That's how they get their money. They get much more money if they slapped a 15% tax on the $20 trillion in 401ks and IRAs than they would by coming out and confiscating at gunpoint people's gold. It just doesn't make any sense. The government has plenty of other options to take people's money. They can take away the real estate tax benefits, right, and instantly save tons of money and put it on the American taxpayer. So there's too many other things that they can do craftily than come out with a gun and take your gold. I mean, that's Mad Max Armageddon stuff. That if that happens, we got bigger problems. Much bigger problems.
Definitely, but I guess what is your perspective on them confiscating or nationalizing gold and silver mines?
I guess it's possible. I mean, that's certainly what we've seen China do. China won't let any gold or silver out of its borders, or at least gold. I don't know about silver. I think it's silver too. I don't see the United States having enough to justify that. It's almost political suicide. And again, if they want money to run their government, all the gold here in America ain't going to do it for them. They need a lot more money than that. They got $100 and some odd trillion in debt obligations. A little bit of gold ain't going to cover that. They need a lot of money. This is going to be a war. Basically, Elijah, I would be much less. It would be much less likely for them to shut down the gold mines than it would be for them to start dropping bombs on an ally and provoke an unprovoked war. Right? They would be much more likely to do that to drive revenue than they would to be going out and shutting down gold mines and silver mines. If they do it, I would be very, very, very surprised.
This question is from James, and James is wondering, if most of the major nations of the world are facing catastrophic debt problems, including the U.S., the EU, China, Japan, Brazil, etc., won't all of them have an incentive to launch wars against each other to deflect attention from their own financial and governmental malfeasance?
Of course, absolutely. I mean, I think that's really where we see things going, Elijah, is that human nature repeats. And so the government wants to keep your faith, and they want to keep your faith in their insanity, right? So what they do is they provoke wars with other nations. They go to war with those nations, and that, speeds up that can help with the economy. It can help with other things as well. There's all kinds of benefits to war, to the elites. And so war is certainly going to be used. I mean, what we have happening over in China right now, with the South China Sea is very, very compelling. Certainly see a war rising out of that. Also many people don't know about the plateau up in Tibet, the Himalayan plateau, where about 4 or 5 different water sources flow down into India and Bangladesh and on out to the sea. And all of these originate in Tibet, which, of course, China, has a big thumb on. And so there's a lot of water crises that are on the horizon, too. So it's resources, it's gold, it's silver, it's also oil, it's water, it's food, it's all of these different natural resources that governments will go to war over, but they won't say they're going to war over it. They'll use something else, just like in 2003, whenever we went to Iraq. And we were told by the government that we were going there to bring democracy, right? Because democracy is really important to spread, apparently. And so it's important for you and for your kids to go and lay down your life to spread democracy so that other nations can have it. Just only certain nations, right? We want nations that have resources to have democracy. We're not really caring too much about those nations that don't have resources. We could really care less if they have democracy. So it's all a word game, right? So you figure out, you do the math and you say, oh, wait a minute. Okay, I see. Democracy means they have resources. That's why they need democracy. So you start doing the math and you start realizing, yes, war is going to be on the table. The amount of weapons that are being sold today. I mean, if we don't want war, then I don't know why we're selling so many weapons. The United States is selling tons and tons and tons of weapons to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia takes those U.S. weapons and drops them on babies and women in Yemen, right? And then the corrupt corporate mainstream press talks about who? They talk about Iran, right? You can't make the stuff up, right? You cannot even make it up. They won't even talk about Yemen. They won't even talk about Saudi Arabia buying bunker buster bombs and then dropping them on kids. They talk about Iran, right? So the whole thing is jacked up. The whole thing has incentives that are completely jacked up. They all lead to war. Individuals listening to this program need to be prepared for war in their lifetime, probably on this continent in the United States. And they need to have a financial plan that will withstand some serious tough times. And I think those who are nearing retirement are probably in the worst place of all, because retirement right now, there's 7 times more senior citizens today that they're growing faster. I'm sorry, let me say it this way. Senior citizens are growing faster. The number of senior citizens are growing faster, 7 times faster than the average adult here in America. So there's a tremendous amount of older Americans, 10,000 people retiring every single day here in the United States. And with more and more people dependent upon a government for income and more people dependent upon the government for sustenance, the quicker this thing is going to break down. So I would say do not be dependent upon the government for food or for water or for money. And if you are, create multiple streams of income, create another source. And yes, be prepared for war. Do not believe the hype. Do not believe that we have reached somehow this pinnacle of humanity and now all the war is over. We haven't seen war yet. I think the big wars are still straight ahead.
Well, Jerry Robinson, thank you so much for your time today. Before we let you go, did you want to share with the viewers any last thoughts you'd like to add and where they can find you online?
Well, sure. Yeah, I think I said what I wanted to say there at the very end. I just really want to encourage people to be prepared. I mean, why do I do what I do? I mean, I'm a trader. I'm an economist. I wrote a book. I write a lot of things. Why do I come on your show? Why do I do a podcast? I do it because I have a burden to educate people. I want to help people. We create products and services at our website that are designed to help people with good, sound wisdom, not scaring you half to death, not fear-based information. This is solid historical information that people can actually use to get ahead financially. We offer information and we also offer software. So it all depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for, the next new uptrend and you want to know what it is and how to invest in it, we can help you with that. If you want to, take your 401k and start investing in some gold or silver or stocks or gold mining stocks or whatever, and you want to learn how to do that, that's what we can help you do. We want to help you take control of your financial life. And people can learn all about us, Elijah, at followthemoney.com. That's where they can go. They can click on the plans and prices, and they can see all of the different things that we do. We're here to help.
Jerry Robinson, once again, thank you so much